In the first half of my childhood, I lived in a hilly neighborhood called Orchard Knoll in Horseheads, New York. Our parents let us roam in the woods and in and out of our friends' homes. And our neighborhood had at least some diversity. When I was about 8 years old, my mom gave me my very first Jewish star, and I wore it proudly all around town. It's the kind of place where it's okay to be you. When I'm 9 years old, my dad, a mechanical engineer, announced that he's gonna get transferred to a company in the Midwest. We're gonna have to move to Findlay, Ohio. I've never even heard of it. All I know is my brothers and I are gonna have to go to a tiny rural district called Van Buren Public Schools, and it has less than 1,000 kids. Worse, we're moving in April, the middle of the school year. That very first week of school, I'm sitting in my 4th grade classroom, and this woman in a long skirt walks in. I call her the church lady because she starts telling us stories about Jesus and all the miracles he created. My face flushes red when she asks us all to sing, "Jesus Loves Me." I don't know the words. I feel stuck. I want to leave, but I can't. After school, I run off the school bus into the house and I tell my mom everything. She and my dad go to talk to the school superintendent and they protest. They're like, a class can't exist like this in a public school. And the superintendent says, I can't do anything about this. Our school board wants all the kids to have Christian values. But the superintendent offers my parents a solution. He says, I can be excused from the weekly Christianity class. My parents are furious, but they don't fight it. They don't want us to stand out in this rural area that's so devoid of diversity. My brothers and I are the only Jews in Van Buren schools. So the next week, when the church lady comes in, my 4th grade teacher escorts me to a room the size of a supply closet. I sit in there alone while my classmates are learning about Jesus. My mom complains about the room, so at least the next time, I get to go to the library. But each week, I sense 20 pairs of eyes following me when I leave the room, and that church lady walks in. And this girl in my class, she says to me, well, why don't you stay in the class with us? I'm Jewish. I think in my 9-year-old brain that anyone would understand why a Jewish girl would not want to be preached Christianity. But she persists. Do you believe in Jesus? I shake my head, no. Well, she says, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. So I go to hell a lot during elementary school. The church lady keeps coming all the way through 6th grade. The funny thing is, I'm not even a religious Jew. My parents, they take me to Sunday school every week because I gotta go, right? And I do wear my Jewish star there, and I love wearing it there. But as soon as we get back to Findlay, which is like an hour away from the closest temple in Lima, I slip my star underneath my blouse. I want to keep my Jewishness invisible. But so many times, it's impossible. But still, I do make some friends at Van Buren. There's my basketball buddies, and I have buddies in band. And there's my friend Dee Dee, who lives across the street. She's just 2 years older, and she becomes like a big sister. But when I'm still in high school one Saturday, my family and I wake up, and we see swastikas on every window of our house. Someone has etched them in white soap, and they've also drawn them on my brother's green Barracuda car. All of us are spooked, but we don't call the police. We've lived in Findlay for several years now. We don't think anyone is going to stand up for one of the few Jewish families in this entire area. So in the next hour, my family and I together just wash away those stains. And on Monday, instead of riding in that Barracuda with my brother to school, we both take the school bus, and we hear whispers. In high school, looking for an outlet, I write for the school paper, but I have to write the stories that my school teacher wants me to write. In college, I studied journalism because I want to write stories that expose wrongs. And I spend the next several decades working for newspapers, and I tell other people's stories until one day I tell my own. And I write about the church lady and the scars she left. And when I write, it feels so empowering. At 41, I celebrate my adult bat mitzvah and chant from the Torah because I finally am ready to embrace myself as a Jew. And now I live in a Boston suburb, and it's home to people of many, many faiths. One day, I go to our mailbox, and there is a surprise from my old friend Dee Dee from Van Buren. I take the box in the house, and I unwrap the tissue paper, and there's this beautiful white stained glass Star of David. In her note, Dee says that she knew it was hard for me as a Jew at Van Buren, and she always wishes she could have done something. She said she made me this star because she knew I had begun to embrace my Jewish identity. Now, whenever I wear this star, I put it on top of my blouse as a talisman of my faith that everyone can see. Thank you.